I'm guessing you've never heard of metamaterials, but this emerging technology is going to greatly improve our lives, from making solar panels far more efficient to shielding buildings from earthquakes and even creating a real-life invisibility cloak. Because the technology is extremely young, its market was valued at just $315 million in 2022, but it's projected to reach a value of $2.5 billion by 2030. We're going to explain what metamaterials are, what they can be used for, and most importantly, how to invest in them. Metamaterials are a new class of functional materials, designed and manufactured artificially. Their unique properties are derived from their internal microstructures rather than from their chemical composition, which is found in natural materials. The precise shape, geometry, size, orientation, and arrangement of these nanostructures affect the electromagnetic waves of light, radio waves, and other forms of energy to create material properties that are not easily achievable with natural materials. Metamaterials are typically built of multiple identical elements fashioned from conventional materials such as metals or non-conducting materials. Think of a Rubik's Cube made of millions of units smaller than the thickness of a human hair. And what makes them so astonishing is the very nature of how they manipulate electromagnetic waves. Radiation can be bent, amplified, absorbed, or blocked in a manner that far supersedes what is possible with conventional materials. We are used to how glass bends light or how gold reflects light. In our everyday encounters with these objects, we know what to expect, because there is nothing special about these materials usually. But with metamaterials, things can get pretty unnatural. For instance, you expect gold to be all shiny and yellowish. But when you alter the surface of the gold with nanoscale structures, that changes how the light behaves when it hits the gold surface. And that changes how we see it. These nanostructures take gold from a conventional material to a metamaterial. And although nothing about the gold's chemical properties have changed, we could now be seeing it as blue or red. You could make these same changes to electromagnetic waves outside the visible spectrum or to audio waves. Another great example of how metamaterials work is old TV antennas. To adjust the image quality, you would wiggle the antennae around until the geometry interacted with the radio waves better. But the waves carrying TV broadcasts back in the day were centimeters to meters long, so the antennae that interacted with them were relatively big. But if you want your material to interact with electromagnetic waves that are microns to nanometers, the shapes are going to have to be just a fraction of those wavelengths. And that brings us to metamaterials. Among the most sought after properties of metamaterials is the negative index of refraction of light and other radiation. All known natural materials have a positive refractive index, so that light that crosses from one medium to another gets slightly bent in the direction of propagation. For example, air at standard conditions has the lowest index in nature, hovering just above 1. The index of water is 1.33, that of a diamond is about 2.4, and the higher a material's refractive index, the more it distorts light from its original path. In some metamaterials, however, negative refraction occurs such that light and other radiation gets bent backwards as it enters the structure. For example, when you put a pencil in a glass of water, it looks broken and shifted, but it's still leaning in the right direction because of a positive refraction index. Now let's hypothetically put a pencil in a liquid with a negative refraction index. In this case, the pencil would also look broken and shifted, but it would also be leaning in the wrong direction. And with such negative refraction materials, many applications become possible in electronics manufacturing, lithography, biomedicine, insulating coatings, heat transfer, space applications, and perhaps new approaches to optical computing and energy harvesting. One of the most obvious applications is that they enable the extreme miniaturization of existing optical devices. For example, you could make lenses that don't rely on the material properties of precisely shaped glass to bend light, and instead use metamaterials whose geometry focuses the light the same way but without the difficulty of shaping a lens or the weight of glass. With metamaterials, you could have glasses lenses that are 100 times thinner than a strand of hair but still do the same job. One of the biggest early successes of metamaterials is the invention of a coating that hides an object from view, an invisibility cloak if you will. Under normal circumstances, as light hits an object, its waves are disturbed and scattered, revealing the object's presence. lights. A metamaterial cloak, however, causes the light bouncing off it to perfectly cancel the light reflected from the object underneath it, producing undisturbed light waves that conceal the object's presence. And this cloaking technology also applies to radar. Existing stealth technologies can hide objects from radar by absorbing the incoming waves, but metamaterial cloaks do much better, because they don't just suppress the reflected waves, they reroute the incoming waves to eliminate scattering and shadows, making the cloaked object undetectable. And the same applies to sound waves, as they have also created objects that can't be detected by sonar devices. You can also use metamaterials for earthquake protection, which hasn't been done on the large scale before, but computations showed that seismic waves traveling toward a building could be directed around the building, basically making it invisible to earthquakes. With metamaterials we could also vastly improve solar panels, because a metamaterial could be tuned to better match the solar spectrum, allowing for the development of broadband wide-angle metamaterials, basically increasing the absorption of sunlight in solar panels by trapping light from all angles. Metamaterials have many more uses, like protecting sensitive laser beam sources from unwanted reflections and basically improving radar and lidar, making wireless cell phone charging much more efficient and focusing sound to a specific point, which could be used in medicine. Now, this technology is in my opinion in earlier stages than, let's say, quantum computers, because in some part there isn't much of a spotlight on it. Even I didn't know about it until one of you guys commented about it on one of my previous videos. And naturally, with lack of publicity there is also lack of funding. Yes, metamaterials show a lot of potential and I think they could greatly improve our lives, but they are still in the research and development phase, so investing in them is a lot riskier than in technologies that are more developed, because you just can't know if this is something that will actually come to the market or just die out during research. But as we all know, the riskier it is, the higher the reward. And if this technology actually makes it to the market, investing now could be very beneficial. But that is a lot of ifs. Nevertheless, I looked through a lot of companies making metamaterials, and while there are a lot of startups working on the technology, only a few of them are publicly traded. And out of those, only one is actually developing and manufacturing metamaterials, with quite a creative name, Metamaterials. The Canadian company uses AI software to custom design patterns for different applications. It has several nanofabrication and manufacturing capabilities, such as AR Fusion, a platform technology for smart augmented reality eyewear, Plasma Fusion, which enables high-speed coating of any solid material on any substrate, nano imprint lithography and rolling mask lithography, which allow wide web high volume manufacturing. Their technology supposedly improves performance for customers in aerospace and defense, consumer electronics, 5G communications, batteries and clean energy, as they have already worked with Airbus, Lockheed Martin and some other companies. The company's stock has a market cap of just around $115 million, making it a micro cap and a very risky investment. And while the stock has seen better days, it's down by 97% from its highs in June 2021. Obviously they're far from being in profit, and what worries me the most is that they have just $6 million in total cash and a quite high cash burning rate. Now, if you wanted to go for a safer option, you could also invest in stocks of companies that aren't solely focused on metamaterials, such as Nanophase Technologies, which is involved in producing nanoparticle based materials, L3Harris Technologies, which has been involved in the development of metamaterial based antennas, Alcoa Corporation, which has been involved in the development of advanced materials including metamaterials, and Kratos Defense and Security Solutions, which has also been involved in developing metamaterial antennas for satellite communication. But once again, these companies aren't focusing on metamaterials, so by investing in them you aren't really investing in their development. And at the same time, the one company that actually focuses on metamaterials is quite risky, but with higher risk the potential reward is also higher. I would definitely feel more comfortable investing in a handful of companies developing metamaterials instead of just one, but right now we honestly don't have much of a choice, and you could take that as a good or a bad sign. And before you decide to do anything, do your own due diligence, and if you haven't already, I highly recommend you watch the video about quantum computers and how to invest in them, and if you would like to support my channel, consider subscribing, and thanks for watching.